Assalamu alaikum everyone. So today we are going to start uh, O levels chemistry 5070. It's paper 1 variant 2, October November 2023. Okay, let's start with the first question. A solid substance is placed in a flask. A flask is gently heated and the temperature of the substance is recorded at regular time intervals. The diagram shows a graph of temperature against time for this experiment. At which point does the flask contain both a solid and liquid? So if we recall, uh, we know that both solid and liquid exist at a melting point, right? And as they have told you that it is a solid substance, so obviously over here it's a solid. And but from B till this, from with this horizontal line, it is a solid and liquid both, and then over here it's a liquid, and over here it's a liquid and gas both, right? So they ask you both solid and liquid, so that is only point B because it's the melting point. So point A, C, and D goes wrong, and B is the correct answer. Okay, now MCQ number 2. A crystal of sodium chloride is dropped into a beaker of water and the crystals dissolve. Okay, there are four stages in this process. The water molecules collide with the ions in the crystal lattice. Okay. The ionic bond in the crystal lattice break. The ions move randomly in all directions until they are evenly spread throughout the solution. Okay. The ions continuing to move randomly in all directions but remain evenly spread. Okay, continue and remain evenly spread throughout the solution. At which stage is diffusion occurring? So diffusion is the mixing of particles and the movement of particles, right? So over here, the point stage 1 is not a diffusion, right? Stage 2 is not a diffusion. The ions move randomly in all direction until they are evenly. So see, that is direction, that is diffusion. Now the ions continue to move randomly in all direction, but remains evenly spread throughout the solution. So it's not a diffusion because the particles already got spreaded evenly. So now if there is any movement, that is considered, uh, that is not going to be considered as diffusion. So on statement 3 is where the diffusion taking place. So it means that our A, B, and D options are wrong, and C is the correct answer. Okay. Now, MCQ number 3. W is ethene, X is air, Y is iodine, and Z is brass. Which row is correct? Okay. So if you see element, so iodine is element. So it means Y. So A and B goes wrong. Compound. So ethene is compound, means W. So W is over here. So obviously it means X and Z both are mixtures. So C goes wrong and D is the correct answer. I hope it's understandable to all of you. Now, MCQ number 4. Which statement about the isotopes of bromine is correct? Okay. They are asking for the isotopes of bromine. They are atoms with the same number of electrons and different number of protons. No, proton isotopes has same number of protons because they are of one element, right? If they are of bromine, so they both have a same number of protons as bromine has. They are atoms of a same number of neutrons and number of electrons. No, not same number of neutrons. Isotopes always have a different number of neutrons. Okay. Now, see, there are atoms with the same number of protons and the same chemical properties. Yes, it is. Seems correct. There are atoms with the same number of protons and same physical properties. No, their mass differ, their neutrons differ, so their physical properties does not stay same. So D goes wrong and C is the correct answer. Now MCQ number 5. Which diagram shows a section of the ionic lattice of sodium chloride? So sodium chloride has sodium positive ions and that must be bonded to both the sides, the negative ions. So all are so positive ions surrounded to each other goes wrong. Sodium being a negative ion makes D wrong. Sodium being a negative ion makes C wrong. So we are only left with option A. So option A is correct one. Now, MCQ number 6. When dilute hydrochloric acid is added to aqueous lead to nitrate, a white precipitate of lead to chloride is formed. Okay. What is the ionic equation for this reaction? For the ionic C, ionic equation, nitrate, it is going to be aqueous and it is going to be aqueous. And in hydrochloric acid, it is going to be aqueous and lead to chloride is going to be solid. So lead ions in the aqueous state, it's for the precipitation reaction. Whatever the precipitate you get, just on the left side, put those ions and in the right side, just make it precipitate. That will be the ionic equation. So if you see, that is over here in this option C. So it means A, B, and D are wrong, and option C is the correct answer. So remember, for a precipitation reaction, the ionic equation would be only the precipitate which are formed at the product side. You have to you will write or you write that compound, and on the left side from the ions from which that precipitates made formed that side. Now, MCQ number 7. The shows a pair of molecule where the MR of a compound X is exactly half that of a compound Y. Okay. Compound X and compound Y, we have to figure out the MR that the compound Y are going to have a MR exactly double than compound X, or the MR of compound X is half of the compound Y. So if you look over here, it's for the MR of Y is 44, and over here you look there are 3 carbons, so 36 and 8 hydrogens, so it is also going to be 44. So A goes wrong. Now if you see over here, there are 2 carbons which makes it 24 and 5 hydrogens which makes it 29 and chlorine 35.5. So 64.5 would be the MR. So now over here, it's 2 and 2, to 24, 28, 28 and 71. 28 and 71, it's going to be 99. So see, it's not double exactly. So B goes wrong. Over here, there are 2 carbons. So 24, 24 and 2 oxygens, 32, 56, and so it's 60. And over here, it's 44. So C goes wrong as well. So if A, B, and C are wrong, so it's save your time. It's for sure that if you do the correct calculation, so obviously the D is the correct answer. So it means if I calculate the MR, you are going to find its MR is going to be 44 and the MR of this one is going to be 88. You can check. Now, MCQ number 8. one volume of gaseous element X2 combines with an equal volume of gaseous hydrogen to form two volumes of hydrogen gaseous hydride. What is the formula of the hydride of X? See what they are saying. One volume of X2, the same volume of hydrogen, and forms a two volumes. So if I keep this one and this one, so it is going to be two. So it is going to be HX because there are two and two of them, right? So then it can be a B. So A, C, and D are wrong, and B is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 9. Which reaction would produce the greatest volume of carbon dioxide at room temperature and pressure? Okay. So if you see, they have given you the, okay, they have given you the MR as well. So greatest volume of carbon dioxide is produced by greatest moles, the one which is giving you the greatest moles of carbon dioxide. So we go for it. So for example, in the first case, the mole ratio is 1:1, right? So if there is a one carbon, so you can relate it like, see, it's a 12 gram because it's a one mole. So it is going to produce 44 grams. So if it is going to be 1 gram, then how much carbon dioxide can be produced? Or we can just do, uh, or you can just do it that 1 divided by 12 is going to give you the moles of carbon dioxide formed, because that is the moles of carbon and the same moles of carbon dioxide would form. Now, the thermal decomposition, so it means 1 over 12 is the moles of carbon dioxide we are getting in option A. 10 gram of calcium carbonate in the air. So if you look at the ratio is 1:1, right? So for 10 gram, the AR is 100. So 10 over 100 is going to be 0.1 moles. So this is lesser than 0.1, obviously, because it's 1 over 12. So 0.1 moles. So the ratio is 1:1. So we'll get the same moles of carbon dioxide. So obviously this one is going to produce greater volume than option A. So option A goes wrong. Okay. Now 10 grams of sodium carbonate with an excess. Now, if you see the ratio is 1:1, and if it's 10 grams, so the mole is going to be 10 over 106. So the denominator goes higher than the calcium carbonate. So it means the moles over here are going to be lesser than 0.1. So it goes wrong as well, right? Now, 50 centimeter cube of 1 mole per dm cube sulfuric acid to an excess of sulfur. Okay. So 50 means 0.05 times 1. So the moles we are going to get over here is 0.05, and the mole ratio is same. So it means the same moles of carbon dioxide we are getting, which is lesser than 0.1. So D goes wrong as well. So see, that's how I'm, by looking at the ratio, I have identified that in B we are getting to get the we are going to get the more greater number of moles of carbon dioxide, hence greater volume of carbon dioxide. Otherwise, you can calculate it in your calculator and then get the values and you will figure out. Okay. Now, MCQ number 10. Chrom alum is the common name of a salt which has the formula CrKSO4 twice. What is the percentage by mass of chromium in chrom alum? Okay. So we need the mass of chromium, the AR of chromium over here. And if you look at the AR of chromium, it's 52. Okay. So 52. Do you guys have a calculator? Over 52 plus 39 plus 2 times 96. Multiply by 100. Can anyone solve it quickly and tell me the answer?
18.37.
18.37, which is rounded off to 18.4. So it's B. A, C, and D goes wrong, and B is the correct answer. Okay. Now, MCQ number 11. The equation shows the production of iron by the reduction of iron 3 oxide. 80 tons of iron 3 oxide produces 50 ton of iron. What is the percentage? Okay, so first we have to figure out how much maximum mass of iron we can obtain from 80 tons of iron 3 oxide. So we can relate it by their masses. 1 mole of Fe2O3 is producing 2 moles of Fe. So if you go over its MR, so it's going to be 2 iron, which means 112, and 3 oxygens are 48. So it's 160. Let me confirm. Yeah, so iron is 56. Okay. So it means 160 grams is going to produce 112 grams of iron because they are okay. So if we have 80 tons, then how much iron can we produce X? So if you calculate the value of X, so X is going to be 80 times 112 over 160. Can anyone tell me the answer, please? Just 80 times 112 over 160.
I'm getting 56.
56 tons. Okay. So 56 tons, that is the maximum amount. And over here we are getting 50. So percentage yield will be 50. That is we have that we have obtained. The calculated one is 56 over 100. So is it 89, I think?
Yes.
Okay. So A, B, and C are wrong, and D is the correct answer. Okay. Now MCQ number 12. Aqueous copper 2 sulfate is electrolyzed using copper electrodes. Which rock correctly describes what it is? Okay. So when we are using the copper electrodes and copper 2 sulfate, so anode decreases. Anode always going to be decreased in this case. And they have mentioned the mass of anode decrease in only one place. So you don't need to look at the rest of the columns, and you have figured out that that is your correct answer because only C has that the mass of anode decrease. So the mass of cathode increases and the color of the electrolyte remains blue, right? Okay, so C is the correct answer. Now MCQ number 13. The hydrogen reacts with chlorine to form hydrogen chloride. The enthalpy change delta H for this reaction can be calculated using bond energies. What is the enthalpy change for this reaction? Okay, so if you see the bond breaking, there is a hydrogen-hydrogen bond, and there is a chlorine-chlorine bond. So, and there is no times 2. So, 436 plus 242. So, 8, 7, and 6, right? No, 8, 7, and 8. And bond formed is only the HCl and twice of HCl bond. So, it is going to be twice of 431, which is equals to 268. So the enthalpy changes bond breaking minus bond forming, right?
Sir, it's
So,
678.
sorry.
It's 678.
Okay, yeah, it's 678 and it's 862. So can you subtract these two? It's negative 184 if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So negative 184. So A, C, and D goes wrong, and B is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 14. Nitrogen and oxygen reacts as shown. The enthalpy change for the reaction is positive 66 kilojoules. If 2 moles of nitrogen and 2 moles of oxygen are used, what will be the enthalpy change? Yes, who will give me the answer? It's a trickier question. They are saying if 2 moles of nitrogen is reacting with 2 moles of oxygen, so obviously if you see 1 mole of nitrogen is reacting with 2 moles of oxygen, so out of 2, only 1 mole reacts with the oxygen and 1 mole of nitrogen remains same. So the enthalpy change is going to be remain same. There is no change. So A, B, and D goes wrong and C is the correct answer. If you have a confusion, let me explain. 1 mole is reacting with 2 moles. So see, again, we have a moles of oxygen are 2. So there are 2 moles of nitrogen, but not 2. Only one is going to be react and form nitrogen dioxide, and the one unreacted comes over here. So if you see, the actual reaction is same as it is, so the enthalpy change is going to be the same. Okay. Now, MCQ number 15. The physical changes and the chemical changes can occur in a substance. Which process describes a chemical change? Okay, in a chemical change, remember always a new substance is formed. Okay. So covalent bonds in methane are broken. Yes, that's what happened. When the bonds are broken, that can be intermolecular attraction between water molecules are broken. No, it's just a melting or boiling. It's not a chemical change, it's a physical change, right? Physical change. Ionic bond in a sodium chloride lattice are broken. So these are only the attraction when the sodium chloride dissolves in water that happens. So it's again a physical change. The manufacture of brass from zinc and copper. So it's again a physical change because a mixture is formed. Brass is a mixture. It's not a chemical compound. So C and D goes wrong as well. So your correct answer is A. Now, MCQ number 16. Two methods used by a student to measure the rate of reaction are disappearing cross method and the loss of mass method. For the disappearing cross method, the student measures the time taken for a reaction mixture to go cloudy, and as a result, the cross which is at the bottom visible from the top goes disappear. For the loss of mass method, the student measures the loss of mass over a known time interval. The rate of two reactions are investigated. Okay. In reaction 1, warm aqueous silver nitrate is added to chlorobutane dissolved in ethanol. The two products are formed. One is an organic compound which is soluble in ethanol, and the other is silver chloride which is insoluble in ethanol. Am I audible to all of you? Yes, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my screen disappeared. Let me share it. Yes. So, so in reaction 1, if you see, we are getting silver chloride which is insoluble, right? So if it's an insoluble, so it means that for reaction 1, it is going to get cloudy. And if it is going to get cloudy, so we are going to use the disappearing cross method. So it means C and D are wrong. So obviously, if reaction 1 is disappearing cross method, so the reaction 2 would be loss of mass method, not disappearing cross method, because they have already told you one is loss of mass method and one is disappearing cross method. So A goes wrong and B is the correct answer. And if you have to assure this, that the piece of solid carbon, calcium carbonate is added to dilute sulfuric acid, so carbon dioxide would form. So obviously the gas escapes, the mass decreases. So yes. Okay. Now MCQ number 17. The hydrogen is used as a reactant both in Haber process and its addition to alkene, which row is correct? Okay, catalyst in Haber process. So we know that in Haber process, the catalyst is iron, right? So C and D goes wrong. Product of addition of hydrogen to alkene. So when in alkene a hydrogen is added, we get alkane. So B goes wrong and A is our correct answer, right? I hope till here it's clear to all of you. Okay. Now MCQ number 18. Chlorine reacts with the iron 2 ions. Which statement about this reaction is correct? Okay. So chlorine is oxidized. So it's changing from 0 to -1. So it's being reduced. A wrong. Chloride ions are formed by the loss of electron. No, they are formed by the gain of electron. So statement B is wrong. Fe2 positive ions have gained electron. It's from going from 2 positive to 3 positive. So it means it's losing electron, not gaining electron. So C goes wrong. It means that D is our correct answer. Okay. Now MCQ number 19. Iron 3 are formed by the oxidation because from +2 to +3, the electron is lost. The oxidation number decrease. Sorry, increased. Now MCQ number 19. Which statement is correct? Okay. A base will react with the ammonium salt to produce a gas that turns damp blue litmus paper red. No, they produces a gas ammonia and ammonia turns red litmus paper blue, not blue litmus paper red. A goes wrong. Adding a base to an acidic solution increase the pH of the solution. Yes, it is. An aqueous sodium hydroxide is an alkali, but not a base. Completely wrong. If it's an alkali, then it's a base as well. In a neutralization reaction, a base donates a proton. No, base always accepts a proton, so D goes wrong. A base donates a hydroxide ion. So B is the correct answer. Okay. Now, MCQ number 20. Information about three oxides Q, R, and T is given. Q reacts with dilute sulfuric acid to form salt and water. Okay, so Q will be either oxide or hydroxide. R reacts with both acid and bases to form salt and water. So it's an amphoteric. Okay, so Q is a basic oxide, R is an amphoteric oxide. T reacts with aqueous sodium hydroxide to form salt and water. So what we have concluded that Q is a basic oxide, R is a amphoteric oxide, and T is a acidic oxide. So Q is a basic oxide. So A and B are eliminated. R is amphoteric. So C got eliminated. We are only left with option D. So D is the correct answer. Okay. Now MCQ number 21. Which definition of a hydrated substance is correct? Okay. A hydrated substance is a soluble ionic compound such as barium sulfate. So first thing, barium sulfate is not soluble, it's insoluble. So A is wrong. A hydrated substance is an ionic compound that contains no water. Yeah, but if you recall, the hydrated compound contains a water of crystallization. So B goes wrong. A hydrated substance is a one that chemically combined with hydrogen. A hydrated substance is the one that is chemically combined with water. Yes, it is. So D is the correct answer. And as we have eliminated the first three, so obviously B is correct. Now MCQ number 22. A student has 5 reagents. Okay. Hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid, calcium carbonate, and solid copper to carbonate. How many soluble salts can be prepared from these reagents? So one is calcium chloride, soluble salts they are asking. Second one is no calcium nitrate, because calcium sulfate is water insoluble. It is not aqueous. Okay. Then okay, copper chloride, copper sulfate, and copper nitrate. So all of them are aqueous. These all are aqueous. So one calcium salt can be produced, which is insoluble. So one calcium salt and two calcium salts and 3 copper salts. These are all water soluble. So the total number of soluble salts are 5. So A, B, and D goes wrong, and C is the correct answer. Okay. Now MCQ number 23. The table shows the number of electrons in one atom of each element W, X, Y, and Z. Which statement is correct? Okay. The number of electrons in one atom of W. Okay, just write the electronic configuration. It will help us a lot. It is going to be 2 and 7. So it means it's halogen group 7 element, right? It's 15, which means 2, 8, and 5. So group 5 element. It's 19, so 2 and 8 is 10, and 18 and 1. So it means it's group 1, and 35. So mhm. Okay, so just leave for Z. W and Z are in the same group. So we can figure out by this if its proton number 35 lies in group. So yes, see, it was 9 and 35, right? So it's a bromine. So it's a fluorine, it's a bromine. So A is the correct answer. Both are in the same group. X is a metal. X has 5 electrons, so X can't be a metal. X and Y will form a compound X3Y. No, if X and Y will form a compound, it is going to be Y3X, not X3Y. So C goes wrong. And Y is a non-metal. Y has 1 electron in its outermost shell, so obviously it's a metal, not a non-metal. So B, C, D goes wrong, and A is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 24. Some properties of elements in group 7 and the reasons of these properties are shown, which row shows a property and the reason of this property. Okay. So, yeah, that is the correct property. No, they are not classified as elements as metals group 7, right? Iodine displaces bromine. No, iodine can't displace bromine because iodine is below and bromine is at top. The boiling point increases as the group is descended. Yeah, that is fine. So A and D, the properties are correct. Now we have to figure out which one the explanation is right. Each atom has 7 electrons in the outer shell and can share a pair of electrons. No, they can share. Yes, they can share a pair of electrons. When the bond is formed, there is a pair of electrons. As the group is descended, it becomes harder to break the cold. No, the boiling point and the melting point, I have always told you, it depends upon intermolecular forces, the forces between the molecules, not the covalent bond. So D goes wrong. And A is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 25. Aircraft manufacture requires a metal that has a relatively low density and is resistant to corrosion. Which property apply to aluminum? So if you recall, aluminum has a low density and resistant to corrosion. So both the properties are can be applied to aluminum. So 24, 25, A is the correct answer. Okay. Now MCQ number 26, which diagram represents an alloy? So alloy has a different size of atoms, right? So that can be D. It means A, B, and D are wrong. You can see the atoms of a different sizes. So that is an alloy. So D is the correct answer. Now MCQ number 27. A small piece of metal is added to a large beaker of water, a vigorous reaction occurs. Okay, so it might be group 1 or group 2. The reaction, when the reaction stops, a few drops of litmus are added to a solution. What is the metal and which color is the solution after the litmus is added? So if they are saying the vigorous reaction occur and we have calcium and magnesium. So if you can see that we have a beryllium, we have a magnesium, and we have a calcium. So obviously calcium is going to be most reactive. It is going to be reactive than magnesium. So over here, C and D goes wrong. And when the reaction occur, we got a calcium hydroxide, and calcium hydroxide is an alkali or base. So the color of the solution goes blue. So B goes wrong, and we are left with only option A. So A is the correct answer. Okay. Now, MCQ number 28. The rusting of iron can be prevented by coating the iron with another metal. Which statement explain why coating with the zinc is more effective than painting? Okay. If coating is damaged, zinc corrode instead of iron. Yes, that's what happened because zinc is more reactive than iron. Iron is above zinc in reactivity series, wrong. Zinc does not react with air, wrong. Zinc forms an unreactive alloy coating, that is also wrong. So yeah, A is the correct answer. That is why the zinc is most effective or more effective than the painting, because if the layer damages, then still zinc corrodes. Okay. Now, MCQ number 29. The list shows the position of metal X in the reactivity series of metal. Okay. Which method could be used to extract metal X? Okay. So if it's below aluminium, right? And it's just above copper. So the carbon is below aluminium, right? If you recall that aluminium, then we have a carbon. And over here, Fe and then X and then copper. So we can't do the electrolysis of solid. So first goes wrong, and if first goes wrong, so A and B are wrong. Heating the metal oxide with a carbon, yes, because X is below carbon, so carbon can help that metal oxide to turn into a metal and gain the oxygen. Heating metal oxide with the copper, not at all, because copper is below, so 3 goes wrong. So D is wrong, so we are only left with option C, so C is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 30. Which statement about water is correct? Okay. Distillation is used to remove insoluble impurities from the no. To remove the insoluble impurities, we need a filtration. So A is wrong. Water containing impurities turns anhydrous copper to sulfate blue. Yes. Water containing impurities turns copper to sulfate blue to pink. So it goes wrong. Water containing impurities boils at no. It is going to boil at a higher temperature. So D goes wrong. So we are only left with option B. So B is the correct answer. Now, MCQ number 31, some compounds that can be used as a fertilizer are listed. Okay. So what are these? Ammonium nitrate, potassium nitrate, potassium phosphate, sodium nitrate. Three of the elements required for the plant growth have atomic symbols of nit and P and K. How many of these three elements are present in each compound? In ammonium nitrate, there is a nitrogen only. In potassium nitrate, there are potassium and nitrogen, so it's two. So it's two. And if you see in ammonium nitrate, we have just nitrogen. No. So if you see, C and D were initially eliminated, A got eliminated in the second row, so we are left with only B. So it means B is the correct answer. You can check along. Now, MCQ number 32. Different strategies to reduce the effect of environmental issues have been suggested. Which row is correct? Is correct. Okay. Reduction in livestock farming. Strategy to reduce the effect of climate change. Yeah, it can be because it causes the methane to more methane and the global warming. Reduction of use of renewable energy. So that are going to be eliminated. There is nothing to do with the climate change with the renewable energy. So this is correct. Strategy to reduce the effect of acid rain. If we you start adding more plants, so it will let them having a lower global warming because it absorbs carbon dioxide, right? So the low sulfur fuel, because sulfur forms sulfur dioxide and sulfur dioxide causes acid rain. So A goes wrong and B is the correct answer from MCQ number 32. Now 33. Which statement about organic compound is correct? Okay. In each molecule of propane, each molecule of propane 1 all has one OH group and each molecule of propane 2 all has two pro OH group. No, it doesn't has two OH group. It has a OH group on the second carbon. Octane and decane are in the homologous series with the general formula CnH2. And if you see it's ane and ane, so it means the homologous series has a general formula of CnH2 and plus 2. So B goes wrong. The ester butyl butanoate has 8 carbons in each molecule. So C, butyl C4, butanoate C4. Yeah, it seems correct. The structure of the functional group of carboxylic acid is not like this. If you displayed it, it is going to be like this. So D goes wrong and our C is the correct answer. Now MCQ number 34. Okay. In the fractional distillation of petroleum, different fractions are obtained at top and bottom of the fractionating column. Which properties does the fraction obtained at the top of the fractionating column have compared with the fractionating fractions obtained at the bottom? So if you recall that the top one has a lower boiling point,
Sorry?
higher is, yes,
Your screen is stuck. Now it's better.
okay. So they have a lower high boiling point, the one at the top. Where higher viscosity means higher resistance in the flow. So they don't have the ones at the top has lower viscosity and has higher volatility and the shorter length. Yeah, they have a shorter length. They have a lower viscosity. I'm talking about the one which are at the top. Okay. So lower volatility would be higher. So in that way, 1 and 3 goes wrong. So if 1 is wrong, 3 is wrong. So A, B, and D are wrong. So we are left with only option C. So C is the correct answer. Is this clear? Okay. Now MCQ number 35. A chlorine atom can replace a hydrogen atom in a molecule of butane to form a chlorobutane. How many different structures of chlorobutane can be formed? So it's really easy. The correct answer is 2. See, there are 4 carbons. So if the chlorine gets on this carbon or this carbon, it is going to be the same thing. And then the chlorine either gets on this carbon or this carbon. So the one possibility is that the chlorine is on the first carbon. So that is the first carbon and that is the first carbon. Or otherwise chlorine gets in the second carbon. So these two are going to be second carbon. If the chlorine attaches over here, so this is going to be second from here. And if chlorine attaches from here, then this is going to be the second from here. So only 2 possible structures when first butane is reacted with the chlorine molecule initially. So A, C, and D goes wrong, and B is the correct answer. Is this clear? Now MCQ number 36. 2 statements are shown. When ethanol is made from glucose by fermentation, each glucose molecule produces 3 molecules of ethanol. If you recall the equation, not 3 molecules, 2 molecules of ethanol and 2 carbon dioxide molecules. So statement 1 is wrong. Okay. And if the statement 1 is wrong, it means A and B goes wrong. Okay. Now, when ethanoic acid is made from ethanol, the ethanol acts as an oxidizing agent. If you recall, we add the oxidizing agent to ethanol and ethanol is oxidized. So if ethanol is oxidized, so ethanol is acting as a reducing agent, not oxidizing agent. So statement 2 goes wrong. So it means that C is also wrong. So we are only left with option D. So option D is correct. I hope it's clear. Now, MCQ number 37. Polymer X is an addition polymer. The monomer used to make X is butane. Polymer Y is a condensation polymer. The monomer used to make Y are 1,2 ethane diol and 1,2 ethane dioic acid. Which statement about X and Y is correct? Okay. So Y, if you see for a Y, it's a diol and dicarboxylic acid, so it can't be polyamide. So that is going to be polyester. That is one thing. And but1ene means CH3, sorry, CH2 double bond CH, CH2, CH3. So I can write it as carbon, carbon single bond. The carbon on the left has 2 hydrogen and the carbon on the right has 1 hydrogen and C2H5 and then this would be the repeat unit. So if you see this would be the repeat unit. So that is over here. Over here it's not like this. So B goes wrong and D is the correct answer for MCQ number 37. Now MCQ number 38. Which statement is correct? Okay. A filtrate is a substance that remains on the filter paper after filtration. Yeah, we can call No, filtrate is a solution which passes from the filter paper. So A is wrong. A saturated solution has a maximum amount of solute dissolved in it, not solvent. A solution is a compound produced when solute reacts with solvent. No, solution is not a compound, it's a mixture. So it means we are only left with correct option, that is D. A substance that remains in heated flask after distillation is called residue. Yes, it is. Now MCQ number 39, the diagram shows the chromatogram. Which spot has an RF value of 0.75? Okay, so 0.75. It's really easy. So see, 0.75, isn't it? It means 3 over 4, right? My screen, yeah, it's 0.3 over 4, right? So the total distance traveled is 9. Okay, so if 7 divided by 9, can anyone tell me the value? Uh, is it 7.75? Yes.
Sir, it's really 0.77.
It's 0.77. But if you see, if you go over here, so it is going to be more greater. It's like 7.2 or 7.5. So 7.5 over 9. 7 over 9, you are getting 0.77. So if I look for C,
0.8.
so it is going to be 7.2 actually. Okay, divide 7.2 by 9.
Sir, 7.2 is exactly 8.
Sorry,
0.2.
7.2 over 9 is? So I think it's C because C is closer. So D,
0.8.
B and A are wrong. So C is the correct answer. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now MCQ number 40. The results of some tests on the polluted river water are shown. Okay. Aqueous sodium hydroxide, white precipitate. Precipitate dissolves to give a colorless solution. So if this is the case, then if you recall, it can be either aluminium or zinc. Then aqueous ammonia, white precipitate, no further change. So it doesn't dissolve. So it means it's an aluminium for sure, and zinc would be excluded. So it's A. So B, C, and D goes wrong, and A is the correct answer. Okay. So we have completed the paper. So that's it for today. Any confusions from today's class?